AI in the travel, here we go. Got that AI on the low, taking flights to and fro, booking trips in a snap with a simple chatbot flow. AI, revolutionizing how we roll. Gonna hop on a plane.
Welcome to another episode of the Everything AI in Travel podcast, where we hear from the makers, shapers, and buyers of AI technology in the travel space. Here's your host, Tony Khan.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Everything AI in Travel podcast. And I'm bringing back a guest that's been on once before. It's been a little while, John. I think you were on about maybe 18 months ago. In the world of AI, probably not much has happened. We might not have much to talk about. Welcome to the show, John Lyotier.
Thank you very much. Yeah, not much to talk about. It could have been on 2 weeks ago. We would have had to be able to fill an entire show in the last 2 weeks, that's for sure.
For sure. Just the pace never stops. There was actually a time like about a year into doing this, and everyone was like, oh, we've got to stop using the terminology AI. It's just like electricity. It just needs to go away into the background and become an underlayer. And I'm thinking, oh, like I've really snookered myself with the name of this show. And obviously your business is called travelai.com. I don't know if you had those same feelings, but I think I've wrote it out and we're okay now.
But when we rebranded, this is now, I found I went looking for different email, and I found when OpenAI invited me into the beta, which was spring of 21. So probably a good challenge to ask for everybody else is, when did you first experience ChatGPT? This before it was known as ChatGPT, but I got invited to the API and the sandbox in spring of 21. So we've been doing it for a long time, but from a naming perspective, when we went through it, we looked at, do we want to be known as Travel AI? But when you smash it together, it still actually looks like a cool brand, even if it's just like Travel AI, and even in that perspective. But I think it served us well over the years.
For sure, for sure. Now, for those that haven't heard the previous episode or know who you are or what Travel AI does, give us the quick synopsis of what you guys get up to over there.
We consider ourselves an applied AI company. And by applied AIs, we're using these various tools and technologies that the world's out there creating right now as part of this revolution that we're seeing, that is the AI agentic network revolution. And we're applying AI to the travel vertical. On the surface, what people see is they see a whole series of consumer-facing brands. We say there's 470, but I haven't counted, let's be honest. We're probably well over 500 by now. Basically, a new brand launches daily. So we're about 500 brands. Sometimes we kill them off, sometimes we add new ones on. But those consumer-facing brands have basically been built and managed and marketed by AI, and we're applying AI to do the build, the test, the deployment, the identification, the marketing of those brands. But under the surface, we've been working hard at building the agentic network for travel. And that agentic network is, how do you have a series of agents? And it's really the underlying infrastructure that we believe the entire travel ecosystem will be running on. We've been building and playing and trying to grow all those different things as we go. But outwardly, we're an applied AI company in the travel vertical.
Nice. And I've seen some posts from you about your results, and they're quite frankly pretty phenomenal as a applied AI company. So a company that's like really focused on this, wasn't really doing something else in the past and just jamming AI on the top. Like you're doing something different, but you're actually having revenue cut through. So if you're comfortable, talk to us a little bit about how you make money and what that looks like currently for your business.
I guess one of the things that people are seeing in the AI space is this push towards outcome-based pricing. You achieve an X, that you get paid for the Y. And if you look at a lot of the way that the travel industry has evolved over the last 25 years, ever since the early Expedia affiliate network that they had way back when, the large travel sellers compensate people for driving outcomes. We've been able to, before the pandemic, and then after when we restarted post-pandemic, we've been able to latch onto that. Every time that there's a booking occurs, we make money. We're not a CPC advertising network. We're not anything like that. If there's a sale, we align our outcomes to that of our travel seller partners. If they make a sale, we make money, we win. And right now we're doing one transaction for about 35 to 38 seconds. This is in that range. So lots of transactions every day. It's nice to see the little bell ring every time a sale comes in. It gets annoying after a while. You turn the bell off saying too many sales, but it's a good problem to have.
Totally is. And as a partner with those travel sellers, the best thing that you can give them is sales, right? Ultimately, that's what everybody is in this game for in the end. Yeah, it seems like you're fulfilling a really good need. Now, the impetus to get you back on was actually something you posted a few weeks ago. So we've moved into this kind of agentic world, agents are now our workforce and they're doing things for us, and we can just tell them what we want as an outcome and they'll figure out how to do it and they'll make it all happen. And then Claude.bot came out and agents were doing all sorts of crazy stuff autonomously, like someone set up a agent only social network where agents could post with one another and they were like bitching about us humans and all this sort of stuff. But you started to buy up .bot domains, which I thought was very interesting. It's also part of your history. So maybe briefly just run us through what your history is and then what's the advantage in the .bot.
Hopefully there will be. Right now, there's no advantage. I'll share that one at the forthright, but hopefully there will be. So as you and I've talked about in the past, I have a background from domain names. I've come out of the domaining space in the mid 2000s. The domain name as a brand signal that you pass either to the organic ranking engines or to really to the end consumer. Go back to 2010, there was a Microsoft study that came out that about 30% of a user's gaze time when they're looking at a 4-line ad before was spent looking at the URL. And if that was a large part of the consumer decision point of do I trust or do I not trust this ad unit or this organic result, the domain mattered. And if now you start to drive the economics from whether I click versus you click, and if I have trip.com, as the guys do, I would have way better success at that versus Mary and Bob's Travel Co. Mary and Bob's Travel Co. doesn't have trust, large domain has trust. So that goes way back when, 15 years back. As we started to assess where the world of search was going, and that includes, I still ChatGPT is another search engine in my opinion. People talk about Geo and AEO and all the other acronyms. It's still search optimization. How do you get in front of a user when they raise their hand? But we looked at the path where we thought the engine in all these markets would go, which goes back into how do you establish trust with those end users? How do you establish trust with an eventual agent? And you say, you know what? We think that domains will play a big part. The general release of the .bot extension came out, I guess it's 3 years ago now. It was a reserved TLD from Amazon from back about 2018. And when they put the general release, we said, you know what, let's do whatever we can to not miss the boat on this potential bet. And for our case, it's probably about $50,000 a year renewal cost because these domains are not cheap. Will it make sense? I don't know. But from this perspective, our whole philosophy was that the world's moving to agents and actions. We believe that the push will be towards a .bot domain extension. From a domaining standpoint, the push went to .ai domain rather than the .bot domain. So we lost it from the domain perspective. But then you start to look at what might be happening now, where you have a namespace needs for everybody will have not just one agent working for them, but they'll have an entire swarm of agents doing their bidding. They all have to have a namespace and resolve in some way. If that existed in the internet world, where you had to have a domain name as a resolution, we think that the .bot will play a role in that naming of your agent.
Yeah.
And that's what we're betting on.
Sure. And is this kind of also a part of a defensive mechanism for you? Because at the moment you, as you said, build brands and those brands materialize themselves as consumer-facing websites. And yet the future may be that people don't go to consumer-facing websites and rather agents are looking for other agents with whom they can negotiate with. And another ex-guest in the last couple of weeks, Cam Diaz, has put out a post saying, you're like, why isn't everything a negotiation? Why do we even have to have set prices when we have agents who can negotiate on our behalf? Shouldn't that just be the default measure? And we can argue the merits of that or not. I hate it in a way, but is it a defensive mechanism for you?
So it wasn't so much a defensive mode as really we like looking at asymmetric bets. And an asymmetric bet is you limit your downside and you have an unlimited upside. From a downside cost, it's what's the cost of the renewal cost and the effort to go out and register these domains. It's at $50,000 per year across our portfolio of .bot domains. And we have a large portfolio of .bots. I had shared some of the ones that are in the travel space. We have others that are not in travel as well. But unlike your standard GoDaddy.com, which you may be able to register for $12 to $20, some of these renewal costs are $3,000 to $4,000. Definitely not a cheap domain renewal, and it's an ongoing cost. But if we're right, the world does move more to the bots that everybody will be out controlling, then the value of these assets will be a lot. So as examples for the guests, we have trip.bot and hotels.bot and villas.bot and ski.bot and various other extensions from that side. But if there is a big push towards these premium assets, it's not about us being speculators and locking up these things. We know that we can use these different tools that are out there now to go off and really we get to use the bots and the agents themselves to build tools and technologies on these assets, and then these assets will have brand value and bestow trust upon the users going forward. So it wasn't so much defensive as more of a I have business ideas attached to every single one of these domains. What we do with ski.bot, looking up snow forecast and knowing everything there is to know about a different ski hill and a ski resort and what to do on a mountain, I would trust ski.bot more than I would trust a individual brand. If so, how does that ski.bot negotiate with a different asset altogether?
Hey everyone, it's Tony here, and we'll be back with our guest in a short moment. But I just wanted to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Viderio. Viderio is a platform that helps travel companies measure the true business impact and outcomes of their content creator work, not just vanity metrics. If you want to see how brands like Intrepid and Carpe Diem, or agencies like MMGY or GTI, or even destinations like Palau are gaining an advantage in creator marketing, then we welcome you to join us. At the moment, we've got a special offer for anybody who would like to try the Viderio platform. You can do so absolutely for free. We've got a case study that you can view to see exactly how the platform works. You can find it here in the show notes, and in there you'll also find how to sign up for the free trial. We'd love to see you and help you with your own social media journey, particularly on the content creator and influencer front. We look forward to working with you soon. Now back to the show. So just if we can follow that thread just a little bit more, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are still confused as to what the future world might look like. And I think your business is incredibly illustrative of what the potential is and how you are skating to the puck, right? So you have travel AI and you build brands, and at the moment those brands are attached to a .com that you've already purchased, and it's high value, makes sense to the consumer, and you put the right colors, the right words, the right pictures, the right offers to the consumer, and that's great for consumers. What might sit behind a .bot?
So a lot of people, when they look at us, they see a series of domain names, but a domain name is just a user expression that the consumer understands at that moment in time. And have built other voice agents, we've built other chatbots, done experimentation with real-time voiceover, plain old telephone system with the Twilio. We've done all the experimentation attached to it. But it doesn't really matter what the user experience is. You still have the same underlying content and data underneath that powers a brand. It would be the same data powering. We have a product in alpha right now called TripDesk. TripDesk is a Slack bot integration. That Slack bot integration has the exact same content we would be pushing onto a website, but there's no website to push it onto. Yes, we have tripdesk.com, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need a website, if you will. In that instance, it's about giving a name to a thing because people understand names. I don't know about you, but I've named my little iRobot Roomba that I have running around the house upstairs. I had to actually push pause before I came down here because it was running away. And at some point it goes right above my ceiling here. But we've given a name to our. Most people do name their home vacuums. I think I saw the stat about one in three name their car. I don't have a name for a car. My wife has a name for her car, so there's 50%. We have a tendency to name things. And even I already look at what's happening with Claude.bot, people have their names for their bots. If you look at the AI.com big announcement from last week, that's an incredible domain, spectacular domain, and they just instantly bought themselves a seat at the table. But the very first thing you do on their sign-up form is claim your identity here and now name your bot. People like naming things. If they name things, what I should have done, I should have gone out and grabbed all of the common names, Jenny.bot, Phil.bot, Bob.bot. I don't know. You pick a name that you would call different things. We like naming things. And if we like naming things, you have to ask why. Why do we name things? And so much of it comes down to being able to have conversations and treat it as a persona or treat it as, frankly, a trusted friend. And if you're going to be trusting your trusted friend, your agent, more than you are a random person on the internet, you probably better to trust somebody that you can give a name to, if you will.
Yeah. It's interesting because I guess that's not how I pictured it in my mind. That's not actually the answer I thought you were going to give me there, because I remember, and this is maybe the level I'm operating at, but about a year into AI, there was it was almost a meme where an agent rang up something and another agent answered it, and they started talking in English to one another. And then he said, "Oh, I'm an agent operating on behalf of XYZ." And then I said, "I'm an agent too. Should we switch to Beetlebop?" And they said, yeah, let's do that. And it was R2D2 kind of talking to each
Yeah.
other. And there was a better language, like there was a better way for them to communicate the
Why do I
information
need to
they
worry
needed.
about this thing called English when you can talk back in machine code?
Correct.
Although for that extension, why do they need to have these agents do it? There's amazing APIs out there that people can tap into. But let's go back a little bit further about what's the evolution of these bots. You will need to have a resolution of understanding that a bot who's acting on your behalf is registered to your identity, the Tony bot, if you will. And really, you have a whole army of Tony bots that are out there because you're going to have one for your scheduling podcast guest, another one that's doing your editing of these videos, another one's doing your shopping list, whatever your personal army is going to entail. They all have to have some kind of namespace and authority space. And the existing domains network is a very good authority to establish identity across the trusted network. It works around the world, it works across the internet, it has a numerical string attached to it, and you can have almost an unlimited number of these things that are out there. When we first, let me sort of back up again. There's two parts in our journey that are to this conversation. Our first business model in a predecessor company was called Left of the Dot Media. Left of the Dot Media was taking a generic domain name and subdividing that generic domain name. So we had access to villas.com. Tuscany.villas.com was a unique brand. California.villas.com, luxury.villas.com, etc. We had importers.com or beef.com, all these generic domains, and we'd subdivide the internet, as we would say. We're literally printing out trusted identity off of that primary namespace. Fast forward to another iteration of the company around 2014, 2015. We were early blockchain pioneers and started to play around with what we built out was a mobile mesh network for off-grid technologies. Device-to-device connectivity, primarily used in refugee camps and around the world where there was no connectivity. Our big challenge then was how do you establish trust and identity in an offline environment when there was no trusted party in the middle to say that you are you and I'm me. We used a new thing just launched called Ethereum, and we can use that Ethereum ID instead of an IP address in the network. Now we're sitting in this new world in which these agents that we're launching have to have some type of identity. We could use an Ethereum-based ID for these agents. Might be an interesting possibility. But in our bet, we're betting that each of these agents will exist in a namespace that you can go out and find an agent. And that agent, we might as well use the existing IP networks that are out there to establish at least a pointing system and that trusted middle ground. Under hotels.com, maybe you would have HyattVancouver.hotels.com. If you have a ski.bot, maybe you would have an individual Taos, New Mexico ski resort. I'm heading out to New Mexico to go skiing next week. So all those different things may have identity, but maybe not. It goes back, nobody knows where it's going to go. We're guessing, and then that goes back to a bit of the beauty that we've been able to establish is that the machine that we've created is revenue producing and growing and iterating upon itself and gives a chance for my super talented team of engineers and product people to experiment and wonder if. What happens if we go out and build this? I had an amazing paper for one of my team members this weekend looking at some of the agentic payment space, as in what do we want to do in the agentic payment space? Will we do anything? I don't know, but we know it's a building block to this agentic future. So let's go out and experiment with this area.
Yeah. And you touched very briefly before on the topics of AEO, GEO, whatever we want to call it. And like, I presume your business runs heavily on SEO. Like, I'd love to get your feeling. Like, for me, it all kinds of feels a bit snake oily. Everything that I'm seeing out there at the moment, like my very basic read on things is every answer that is produced by a platform AI is created on the fly. Right. So we'll say we could prompt the same thing at the same time using the same language, but because I have a history that's different to you, we'll get a different answer. And actually, if I ask it again tomorrow, it will probably give me a different answer again. So how people are saying, oh, no, we'll be able to measure how often you're showing up in generated search answers. I have no clue how they would do that unless the actual platform gave them that information, which doesn't exist at the moment. Long way of asking, like, how are you thinking about that at the moment? And what sort of percentage of traffic might you be seeing now from the brands that you have built coming out of LLMs and people searching in there?
Interesting question and hard to answer. So let's go back a little bit. And in the early days of search engines, 98, 99, people start to figure out this new thing that eventually became known as SEO. Back in 97, 98, 90, we're just trying to get traffic. And then you evolve, then the search engines evolve, and you have to evolve along with it. So really, whether you're back in 98, 2008, 2018, or now, pick your eras, it's about getting in front of that customer when they're raising their hand, looking for the thing that they're asking. The If you take the existing search product of I'm expressing my consumer intent by typing a phrase into Google, or my existing search product of ChatGPT, I'm asking a long-winded question, it's still the role of that engine to return the best match of how they solve your intent. Where Google really built their entire business was they were able to take that intent and drop an ad in front of it saying, you're looking for red tennis shoes. By the way, here's an ad for red tennis shoes. Ta-da, here you go. So that's just great intent matching. I think where it's different now is that the intent that we're seeing, there's a new underpinning of different people doing the searching. So consumer searching, I'm entering my thing. And agent searching, that's different. That's a new paradigm. So I think we need to split those things up. As far as how much traffic we're getting, it's material enough to appear in our dashboards, but it's not nearly as much as the organic. It's still like I've seen people, we've had a great growth in the space of organic. Organic has been growing. We're probably 200, 250% up a year over year on organic traffic growth. Why? You do things right. You structure the content, you do your schematic markup, you have good chunked content. You'll get rewarded by regular engines, but also you get rewarded by AI overviews, you get rewarded by ChatGPT. But that's what you should be doing anyways. Just to rank for regular engines, you have to do those things. It differs a little bit when you start to say, how do you actually position yourself for this future of when the AI agent is doing the search? What happens then? And that's a bit of a different conversation. But I think those searches are still so minuscule attached to agentic optimization, which is different than the AI overview optimization. Does that make sense?
It does. And if you had to pull out a crystal ball, like how big will like humans using LLMs as a search engine versus agents using obviously doing agentic
Yeah.
conversations between one another? Like will this kind of humans just replacing Google with ChatGPT ever be able to get to a level before agents come and just take over anyway? So is it worth it, I guess is what I'm asking. Like,
Oh, absolutely, it's worth it. I think people like to do search. Maybe I'm feeling, I'm trying to remember if you and I have talked about this in the past, but I like travel research. I like the dreaming part of it. I don't like the business travel. I need a quick place. I booked a trip earlier today to New York City. Need to stay close to meeting, have the Empire State Building. Can find me a hotel nearby. Okay, it's good enough. I know it has the right rankings. Book it 2 nights in, out, done. But I also have a
$3,000.
yeah, yeah.
New York
It's
City, New York
New
City.
York City.
You got a
I think it
cheap one
was
if you got
$780.
$3,000.
But don't worry, canceling all the Airbnbs in New York City is going to drop the hotel price, Tony. But at the same time, I have a personal vacation coming up to doing exploration across Colombia, going down to destination wedding, then going to a resort, then doing a river cruise. I enjoyed that planning.
Mm.
I think people do travel planning. I think people are foolish in thinking that the agent's going to do it all for them. I think there needs to be a change in the user experience, and we haven't solved it. We've had multiple design sprints trying to solve it. We haven't solved it, but that agentic user experience in which there is building for multiple masters. Yes, you need to service up the information to the agent, but you also need to service up the information once the agents return it back saying, here's this information. A good example, if you're to conduct a chat GPT search today, what you're optimizing for is not the content that appears. That's good and it helps your brand. What your optimization is for right now is the citation. What will that little citation, that small little link that links back to your website, what will that show? And we've done a lot of testing from over the last sort of 6 to 8 months about citation optimization, if you want to call that a thing. We know that you can take 40 characters in your citation before they cut it off and insert their own. Have you optimized your 40 character citation? How does it look on mobile? How does it look on desktop? All those little citation optimizations is extremely important. We've seen a 25 to 30% lift by doing citation optimization. They change, and ChatGPT is constantly changing and doing their testing. They don't want to click out the traffic. They want to borrow all your content, borrow your information, and hold you in their walled garden, as any of these platforms do. But how do you do the optimization today to optimize your citations? That's a user experience. How do you optimize for the user experience? But that's not a very good user experience. I don't know how it goes.
Yeah. A couple of things went through my mind while you're talking there. One, you like travel planning, and At the other end of the spectrum, we have Alex Bainbridge in the Everything AI and Travel Slack group telling us that actually no one will ever want to cook again because the robots will be so good at cooking for us that why would you start a cooking school, which is a furious debate going on in there. That maybe
Yeah.
people enjoy getting their hands dirty in cooking, or food doesn't taste good without soul, and all these types of things. So that was one interesting thing that passed through my mind when you were talking there. I'd love to know how you feel. Like, again, this week we've seen Marriott and Google kind of join hands together and start to sell hotels in the AI answers or AI mode in Google.
Yeah.
Is that something that could disintermediate your business, or how do you look at that?
I want to go back to the cooking one first. I think this is an interesting parallel before I answer that, the harder question. During the pandemic, we started using one of these food delivery services, the food delivery service where they package up all the ingredients appropriately portioned, and here's your onion, here's your chicken, here's your shallot and your spices and your thing. But the spices are already measured out. And what happens is that you end up spending more time cooking than you would otherwise. Because I got to cook a dinner and it's boring. It became 3 nights a week. We had a date night inside the house because we like cooking. And because you do enjoy the cooking, cooking is very social. But in any culture, cooking is a super social activity. But all of these technologies have enabled us to do the thing that we love. And it's prepackaged out. We don't have to worry about shopping ingredients. It gets delivered to my house once a week. Here's your package of meals. Here's fresh. It's great. And I think that's a great metaphor to what we enjoy. Don't take away the enjoyment of the thing that you do. Don't take away the socialization aspect of it. Don't take away the humanity of it. But you still can have the technology enabled service to enable you to do the thing that you still love doing. Here's a great number of properties you can consider, and here's what's great about them. Wow, look at this one. Now here's an immersive experience for that property. I can still be there without actually being there. Not to besmirch Alex, but I think he's wrong. I think people enjoy they enjoy the eating and they enjoy the socialization of the preparation attached to it.
It's not the first time someone's told him he's wrong, by the way.
Yeah, he wouldn't be the first time, probably won't be the last. Sorry, Alex. I think I had a holiday that last October where my wife and I met my sister and her husband in Italy. We had a villa there and we had a private chef come in, super affordable to bring a private chef in. Highlight of the trip. We came in, he talked about the food, he talked about the culture, he told us some jokes. He said, no, you don't want to listen to that music. Let me show you some good music. Just, he was there for us. And is that an experience? Is that cooking? He brought the cook in. I could have done DoorDash, but that's not the same. It's not Uber Eats. Sometimes you need that food, sometimes you need that.
Was that through a particular service? Because that sounds pretty great.
I'll give a plug out to Tuscany Now and More. I think what the private booking site is, we don't have the inventory on our own network of sites. We found an amazing villa. It was a great deal, end of season. And they basically just click a button if you want to add on of a private chef. Spectacular.
Nice. Sounds good.
So Tuscany Now and More. Good work, everyone. That was a great experience in New Villas. But that's why we travel. We travel for those experiences. We don't travel for ordering a meal delivery service. You may get good food from it, but it's not looking for the good food. For
the story to tell when you go home.
Yeah, it's the learning different languages. It's why we all travel. We know that. So yeah, Alex is wrong. To your other question on
Marriott and Google.
All of these platforms need to figure out a way how to monetize their extremely costly endeavors. Processing these answers to these questions, they're very expensive. You're seeing the early days. I've not yet seen it in the wild, but I'm dying to try ads in ChatGPT. I think it would be a real banger being able to insert. I can't believe they're just doing CPC impression based to start. Why aren't you jumping? They are jumping in. That deals with some of the large travel sellers right now to do the booking straight from. That makes a lot of sense. Marriott and Google relationship, that makes sense. Tying into the Google hotel ads, that makes sense. It's just about getting in front of the traveler and give them what they want. Is it disruptive for our business? No, because we'll adapt. We'll be in those channels as well. Are we going to build new things that help that process work better? That's where I think our real secret sauce will come from. It's how do we ensure that Marriott and Google can work better together? And I think we can build some technologies, and we're trying to build some technologies that would help that kind of relationship. But yes, it's not a disruptor, but you have to stay nimble enough to adapt to whatever's coming next, for sure.
Cool. Now, we've only got about 5 minutes left, but you're always someone who I know is like at the forefront and then looking forward from the forefront. So I'd love to know some of the things that you are thinking about, like to either build in your own business or you think should be built for the level of technology that we're at, or just any other thoughts of kind of future gazing that you might have.
I think the biggest thing that we've been focused on that I think We're lots of different thoughts. So we're building this thing called the Shared Vector Traveler Protocol, SVTP. We keep on saying we could probably look to rebrand it because SVTP is such a mouthful. But really what it is that we've been building verticalized memory for travel for ourselves and for our own sites. And we believe there's an opportunity to share that vertical memory with others in the travel industry. I think that this promise of an agentic network, this promise of agentic future, relies on that shared vector, that shared traveler memory. And we've been really hard at work at doing that, whether we're working on it or there's a few other players out there who are experimenting in that area. I think that's a fascinating space to watch. Passing information to that shared vectors around payment profiles, on traveler identity. There's all these different possibilities, but can you start to look at things where if you have ChatGPT and AI overviews and the various things running as generalized memory, can you go deeper into the travel side? So generalized memory at the top, deep memory and vertical memory down the silo. I think the one that's really been captivating my interest in these last few weeks, really since Peter Steinberger did the whole Claude bot, Molt bot, OpenClaw revolution, is that there's a big need for orchestration at the top of how do you actually enable all of these things to work together. I don't know where that's going to go, but we've seen it when we built out. We have a product that we built for internal use called Presto. It's our agentic site development tool, but really it's a swarm of AI agents all building sites together and reaching consensus attached to it. We had a offsite this past week where we basically said, "Hey, who here in the company wants to have a Mac Mini to go off and experiment in this area?" I don't know what it's going to look like, but what happens when one of my product managers has their Mac Mini talking to my bot, talking to things that are in the cloud? How do all those things work together? How do I have my swarm of 10 agents all working for me? And how is that going to be orchestrated across the enterprise? I think that's really interesting. Enterprise grade security, permissions attached to my data, not isolated to outside world. Yeah, it's a fascinating space. It's all changing. Seeing these new videos from Seed Dance last week. What's happened last 2 weeks? Here's your full length feature film. That's pretty cool.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah. John, hey, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with us today, sharing your thoughts, sharing your big brain with the rest of us in travel. Always good to catch up. I always learn about 10 things when we're chatting together. Have a great trip down on your ski trip
I will.
in a week or two. And thanks again for joining us on the show.
Oh, let's catch up soon. It's seeing some stuff you're working in the video space. I think that's true to my heart right now. I think one of the things that actually, let me go back. I think one of the biggest things we're going to be seeing is a push back to the real. And I think people are relying on these machines and relying on these AI technologies, but there's a huge desire to be real, to see real people, to bring the hospitality back into the industry. I was out at that Future event in Madrid, I guess 2-3 weeks ago now. And you look through basically there's two halls. There's 9 halls dedicated to the DMOs of the world, and then there's one hall dedicated to the technology providers. If you look at the booths of the technology providers, there's not a single face that appeared anywhere on any of their booths. It was all about the machine and the widgets and not about the people behind the scenes. And I think what we're going to see coming soon, and the question is it going to be 1 year, is it going to be 2 to 3 years, is a push back to the real. That's why we're in this business in the first place. We want that real thing. You have the AI technology helping you, but you have to get back to the real.
I think you've given me an amazing branding idea for Viderio. So thank you. Thank you very much. I hope everyone enjoyed the show today. Look out for us on the next one and hit that subscribe button if you really enjoyed what you heard today. Thanks again, John.
Talk soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
AI, in the travel game we go. Got that AI on the low, taking flights to and fro, booking trips in a snap with a simple chat bot flow. AI, revolutionizing how we roll.